Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. AS Sweet ASU, my girl, I won't mistreat you in front of everyone. To the cheers of the crowd, Lee Ka embraced me once. I had no way to refuse him, I didn't dare refuse him. At our school, he had been the most notorious troublemaker from freshman year all the way through senior year. There was no one who didn't know his name. Eventually, the crowd of onlookers dispersed, and I finally let out a sigh of relief. "You like my sister?" I asked him carefully. Lee Ka stayed silent and glanced at me. Who wouldn't want to pursue the beauty queen of the foreign languages department? She has outstanding looks, an easygoing personality, and is the top talented woman in the whole department. A goddess in the eyes of every male student. He paused. You both have the same face, yet you have nothing of her reputation. He tossed out that one line and nearly made me choke to death. Zheng Zheng and I are twin sisters, so we look almost identical, but our personalities are completely different. Zheng Zheng is lively, easygoing, and enthusiastic. She loves to talk, and since childhood she has always been the center of attention in any crowd. But I'm different. My temperament is odd. I dislike crowds and prefer to work alone. Today it was precisely because I was heading back to the dormitory by myself that I was stopped on the road by this insufferable troublemaker, and was forced to accept his confession. To top it all off, this D-grade guy had the nerve to compare himself to my sister. "She's better than you," I replied flatly. Lee Ka studied me closely, and I could see the fear in my own heart reflected in his gaze. "It's not early anymore. Can I go now? The dorms close early." I couldn't help but remind him, "About today, can we pretend nothing happened?" Before I could finish, Lee Ka's voice cut in. "Who said nothing happened?" He ground out his cigarette and gave a faint smile, then threw his arm around my shoulder. "Let's go, I'll walk my girlfriend back to the dorms." My heart jolted. Surely he wasn't being serious. As it turned out, I was overthinking it. The very next day, after class, I had barely stepped out of the classroom when I saw Lee Ka leaning against the wall with that carefree air of his. "Let's go eat," he said, jogging over the moment he spotted me. Lee Ka led me to a small restaurant in front of the school gate. But we had barely sat down when he gave me an order. "Call your sister. Tell her to come eat with us." I finally understood. Being by my side was just a pretense. His real goal was to use me to get close to Zheng Zheng. But in the face of the intimidating authority of the school troublemaker, I called Zheng Zheng anyway. However, she said the foreign languages department was putting on a spoken English play and she was the female lead, so she couldn't come. I relayed everything to Lee Ka. After he heard, the expression on his face soured. "Friday afternoon Lee Ka has a basketball match. Come watch me play, and remember to bring your sister along." His tone carried a faint edge of threat. I had no choice but to agree. There was no way to refuse. In the end, I could only call Zheng Zheng again. "Zheng Jiu, you've been acting a little strange lately," she said, almost zeroing in on the key point. "Although Zheng Zheng and I attend the same university, we don't really do things together. I'm not free today. I'm with Senior Leng Chuchi discussing the content for the school anniversary ceremony." The sound of that name, Leng Chuchi, landed like a stone against my heart. Since the moment I entered university, I had quietly harbored a crush on him, the top student of the school. "Talk again later." "I can't make it." There was a faint note of regret in Zheng Zheng's voice, as if she'd let something slip unintentionally. After a brief silence at the other end of the line, she finally said, Jingjiu, invite me again, I'll definitely come next time. I went to watch Li Ka's match by myself, which even I found strange. If it had been before, I would never have gone to this kind of event. I sat in the stands watching Li Ka run back and forth, snatching the ball and shooting. He glanced at the crowd, everyone was applauding and cheering. But inside me, not a single ripple stirred. After the match ended, Li Ka found me. Your sister didn't come. He wiped his damp hair, then pulled out a cigarette from his pocket. My sister is too busy, I replied, looking off into the distance. He took a long drag and slowly exhaled, the lines of his face growing clearer. Why? Don't the two of you get along? I didn't answer directly, only staring at the sharp angles of his face. Then I worked up the nerve to ask, Li Ka, do you want to make a deal with me? What kind of deal? I wouldn't have thought you'd dare. Li Ka narrowed his eyes at me. I'll help you pursue my sister, I said clearly, hearing the steadiness in my own voice. And you help me pursue someone. Who? His eyes flickered with surprise. Whoever would make you brave enough to make a deal with me, Li Ka. He leaned in close, smiling that shameless smile. Leng Chuchi? That guy? He stepped back, waving a hand. How can you like someone like him? His expression was dismissive. I truly wanted to punch him. Why not? I frowned. He's surrounded by girls constantly, Li Ka said, jumping up and back down from the bleachers. Then turning to look at me. Aren't you going? I didn't know if he was serious or joking, but Li Ka and Leng Chuchi were classmates. From him, I could pick up at least some information. So, are you going to help or not? I stood up and caught up to him. Deal. Only an idiot would turn down an arrangement like this. From the moment I allied with Li Ka, the number of times we ran into each other grew more and more frequent. Is your sister free lately? She's busy preparing for the school anniversary gala. She's too much work. Li Ka kicked a pebble off the road in frustration. An idea came to me. If you want to see her, there's a way. What? Perform something at the gala banquet. If you participate in the production, you'll have a reason to spend time together. Can I perform a fight scene? Li Ka tilted his head, smirking at me. Any worse ideas you've got? Actually, a martial arts performance would go over really well. I couldn't help but tease him, playing along. He thought I was genuinely brainstorming for him. When he finally realized I was laughing at him behind his back, he snapped, How bold of you, little brat, daring to mess with me. In the end, he rubbed the top of my head. Guess I'll have to send you in instead. His gesture was unexpectedly familiar, and I froze, standing there motionless. Why aren't you moving? Li Ka had walked a few steps before turning back. Just kidding. Don't take it seriously. I didn't actually think it was real, but a few days later, my academic advisor called me, and I had no choice but to face reality. Jingjiu, didn't you used to play the piano? I've already signed you up for the school anniversary gala. The advisor's words were soft, but they gave me a splitting headache. Being made to appear in front of everyone, I simply couldn't do it. Mr. Wu, is there any way I can opt out? The moment I said it, the advisor's voice shot up an octave. Jingjiu. You're already a sophomore now. You can't act like a freshman and refuse every school event. It won't do you any favors for your social skills or future career opportunities. I noticed you from the day you enrolled, grade 10 piano certificate. You're more than qualified to showcase your talent on stage. He was so earnest and sincere in his persuasion that I had no choice but to agree. But it had been 5 years since I last touched a piano. The summer of my second year of middle school, my parents divorced. My mother chose to take Zheng with her. When packing, she stared for a long time at the only piano in the house. Zheng needs to practice every day, so we'll take it with us. She made her decision. The day the movers came to carry the piano away, I hid in my room and refused to come out. Only at that moment did I finally understand. What had been taken from me wasn't just a piano. Alone, I sat in the auditorium seats, lost in old memories, so deep in thought I didn't notice Li Ka standing behind me. He did the most childish thing imaginable. He tried to scare me. But I didn't react at all. He was a little deflated. Sitting here alone, what are you thinking about? I shot him a resentful look. I'm performing at the gala. He swore under his breath but plastered on the expression of someone completely unbothered. Performing what? Martial arts? He truly deserved a good beating. A solo piano piece, I said. He actually looked surprised. Not bad, he said. He rarely praised anyone. Then why are you moping here? You don't want to go on stage? I'm making a statement about the meaninglessness of life, I said theatrically. He sat down next to me and started offering advice. It's not a bad thing, you know. Leng Chu-chi is hosting the gala. The play and performances are a chance to be around him. He paused. Wait, doesn't that sound familiar? He suddenly burst out laughing. I was so furious I nearly flew across the room to beat him over the head. To tell the truth, Li Ka stopped laughing for a moment, and I thought he was going to say something meaningful. But the next second I heard him say, who knows, maybe after your solo piano performance, you'll become so famous overnight that Leng Chu-chi will willingly kneel beneath your pomelo print skirt. I said nothing. His ability to persuade people was truly hopeless. I ignored him, and he, as if looking to start something, said, not joking with you now. If there's anything bothering you, tell me. I'll help. My heart was already in a bad place, but this person had voluntarily walked into the line of fire. So I threw my arms out and grabbed him. I don't have a piano to practice on. Can you find one for me? He grinned. What's so hard about that? I'll find one for you. I don't have money to buy a performance dress. That's a bit of an imposition, Li Ka said with a slight frown. I'll figure something out. Seeing him answer so readily, something inexplicable rose in my chest. From childhood to now, I had very rarely asked anything of others. I even felt that opening my mouth to ask for anything was a luxury. Li Ka and I weren't close. Whether he'd follow through was one thing. But the fact that he was willing to accept my request surprised me enormously. Still, the feeling of being touched lasted less than 30 seconds before he said, when the time comes, I'll come backstage to find you, and conveniently get to see your sister. I thought to myself, when did he start acting like such a devoted pursuer? Li Ka hadn't just been talking. 2 days later, he met me at the entrance to the music department's piano room. From a distance, I saw he'd brought along a few of his underlings. Hello, sister-in-law, they called out to me in unison. I had a head full of question marks. But I quickly figured it out. the day Li Ka had confessed his feelings to the wrong person. They had probably been there too, so they assumed I was his girlfriend. Don't call her that. Li Ka turned around and shot them a look sharp enough to kill, then pulled me by the shoulder into the piano room. From now until the anniversary gala, you can come here every day after meals to practice. I clutched my doubts to my chest. Are you sure? Won't the music students chase me out? When has our cabro ever had anything less than a perfect relationship with the girls from the music department? One of the underlings couldn't help but boast. Li Ka told him to shut up before the words were even out. The underling immediately clamped his own hand over his mouth. In front of them, Li Ka held a certain commanding authority. I practiced inside the piano room while they stood guard outside, not letting outsiders disturb me. When I finished practicing, Li Ka stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly blurted out, "Zheng Jiu, I underestimated you." That was the first compliment I received after returning to the piano after 5 years. Not polished enough. Not refined enough. But somehow, without meaning to, it made me feel genuinely happy. 2 days later, Li Ka somehow produced a performance dress for me, a simple off-white silk slip dress with a touch of elegance that didn't sacrifice its classical charm. "Did you buy this yourself?" I held it tentatively, already sensing it was genuinely expensive. "Don't worry about the details," he said, cigarette hanging from his lips, stepping well back so the smoke wouldn't drift over. "Go back and try it on, see if it fits." When I tried it on, it fit perfectly. Regardless of whether it was Li Ka who bought it, his eye for style wasn't bad at all. Because he had helped me so much and had been such a loyal ally, I decided to repay the favor by arranging the meeting he'd been hoping for. I called Jingjing again, reminding her that last time she had promised she would definitely come next time. "Jingjiu, I saw your name on the school anniversary gala program." Jingjing's voice on the other end was full of excitement. She had already found out, as expected. But I didn't want to talk to her about that. "Can you have dinner with me tonight?" A brief pause. "Sure. You decide the time and place." That evening, I brought Li Ka along. When Jingjing saw me arrive with someone else, she was clearly surprised. She looked at Li Ka beside me with a trace of hesitation. "And this is," Li Ka dropped his usual teasing manner. "Third-year student, finance department. I'm a good friend of Jingjiu's." "Finance?" "Oh, same major as Senior Leng Chuqi," Jingjing said with a smile. Li Ka glanced at me. "That's right. We're classmates." The conversation between Jingjing and Li Ka flowed easily, leaving me feeling like an outsider. But since I was the one pulling the strings for both of them, I didn't need to say a word. I still felt perfectly fine about the whole thing. Halfway through dinner, Jingjing suddenly turned to me. "Jingjiu, how far along is your preparation for the performance?" And just like that, I tried to change the subject as smoothly as I could. Jingjing burst out laughing. "It's been so many years since I've seen you play. This really is a rare occasion." I didn't respond. But Li Ka's expression had shifted. "She hasn't played for years?" Jingjing looked surprised. "That's right, have you heard her play?" "I haven't yet," Li Ka said, frowning thoughtfully as he looked at me sitting quietly to one side. Then he nodded to Jingjing. "She's been preparing lately, so I've heard her a few times." After dinner, Li Ka went to pay the bill. Jingjing and I waited outside. "Do you know him?" Zheng Zheng suddenly asked. I gave her a suspicious look. He's famous at our school, she continued. Of course I'd know him. So she had already known about Li Ka. So what? I replied without feeling. How did you end up becoming close with someone like him? The Zheng Zheng who had been chatting and laughing just a moment ago was entirely different from the Zheng Zheng who now stood in front of me with a serious, meaning-laden expression. I don't know what kind of person he is, she continued. Don't you know he's gotten into fights? Being targeted by someone like that will make your life very difficult. My mind suddenly flashed to someone else. It's not like it's my first time seeing people fight, I said without thinking, as an involuntary flash of annoyance rose in me. Is there any way to avoid it? In an instant, Zheng Zheng straightened up and took a long, slow breath. After a long pause, she finally said, because he was always fighting, his enemies kept coming to our door, that's why Mom and I had to leave. He's gone now. Aren't you free? I didn't say it directly, but she on the contrary couldn't help but want to make things clear. How was that called freedom? From the moment she decided to leave me behind with our father, I had already been stripped of the right to be free. Those terrifying nights were still nightmares in my heart. We're both adults now, I said coldly. Who I'm friends with isn't for you to decide, Zheng Jiu. She wanted to say more, but she saw Li Ka coming out. So she stopped. I turned and walked ahead, leaving the two of them behind. Within moments, I could hear them chatting happily again. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for Li Ka. In the end, in the eyes of the person he liked, his image was utterly unsalvageable. Li Ka said he wanted to come to the gala, go backstage to cheer me on, and bring me flowers. I knew he had other motives. But on the day itself, he was nowhere to be seen for the entire evening. I called him several times, but he didn't pick up. Even when I walked on stage, there was still no sign of him in the audience. The performance was a tremendous success. The applause was enthusiastic, but I didn't feel happy. Something still felt missing. My heart was unsettled. Going backstage, I wasn't paying attention and stepped on someone's shoe. I looked up at the person in front of me. It was Ling Chu Chi. I'm sorry. I was a little nervous. Even my apology came out awkward. It's fine. He smiled, then looked at me with a trace of surprise. You're Zheng Zheng's younger sister, aren't you? Your performance tonight was amazing. He knew who I was. I suddenly flushed red, not even knowing what to do next. Nice to meet you, Zheng. He paused, searching his memory for my name. Jiu, I nodded. Zheng Jiu. If I'd known earlier, I'd have had your sister organize a game for everyone to get acquainted. We wouldn't have forgotten your name. He shrugged. Sorry about that. I felt myself tense up. So the person I had been quietly fond of was someone Zheng Zheng also knew well. I can't keep chatting. I have other things to take care of. He pointed to his script. Let's catch up next time. After saying goodbye, I was still red in the face. Then, at the most perfect moment, Li Ka called. Sister-in-law. By the voice, it wasn't Li Ka, it was one of his underlings. Sister-in-law, the performance is over. Could you come here for a moment? Ka Bro has been hospitalized. Concussion. He got in a fight with those guys from Thai University and lost. I hung up immediately and took a car straight to the hospital. I didn't even have time to change clothes. Later, when I thought about it, I felt strange even to myself. I was just an ordinary university student. What kind of madness had gotten into me, worrying about the well-being of the school's most notorious troublemaker? When I arrived at the hospital, Li Ka's underlings were waiting at the door. "Sister-in-law, over here," one called, waving me over. I lifted my skirt and ran toward them. "Sister-in-law, you look so beautiful tonight," he said, giving me a once-over before sighing quietly. "What a shame Cabro missed your performance." This little guy had, almost accidentally, put his finger on exactly why I'd been in a bad mood all evening. "I'm not your sister-in-law," I said. He didn't dare argue, but didn't respond politely either. He simply led the way, pushing open the hospital room door. From a distance, I could already see Li Ka lying flat on his back like a stiff old man. "Cabro," the underling bellowed. Li Ka turned his neck. "Mom," he said in a weak, feeble voice. That one word hit me right on top of the head. A concussion, could it really be that serious? Had Li Ka lost his memory and turned into a fool? I walked carefully to the front of his bed. "Li Ka, do you still recognize me?" He stared at me blankly, then finally snapped back to reality, scratched his head sheepishly, and said, "Of course I recognize you. Jingjiu." Nothing seriously wrong, then? How could anything be wrong with me? Well, no big problem, clearly. "Jingjiu, I'm sorry about today," he said, hanging his head dejectedly. "I said I'd come to watch you." I had never seen this side of him before. Flustered, I could only try to comfort him. "It's fine. Besides, you've already heard me play before." He was quiet, looking at me with a few layers of regret in his eyes. "But I didn't get to see you wearing this beautiful dress and performing." I narrowed my eyes. When had the school's notorious troublemaker become so dramatic? "Then next time I'll wear this dress and play for you again, all right?" I improvised the lie just to comfort him. "Promise?" "Promise." I looked down and caught a glimpse of the skirt. In my rush to get here, it had gotten a small stain. "By the way, this dress, once I get it cleaned, I'll return it to you." "No need," Li Ka waved his hand. "I'm giving it to you. Plus, didn't you promise to wear it and perform for me? You can't very well give it back." I had only said it to comfort him, and he actually believed it. One day after recovering from his hospital stay, Li Ka returned to school. Meanwhile, Jingjing suddenly got in touch, asking if I wanted to go to Xiamen over Chinese New Year. I turned her down. A few days later, Li Ka came to find me and brought up the same trip. "So you were the one who suggested going with my sister, and conveniently invited me along?" I frowned, uneasy. "How did my sister get in touch with you?" "Leng Chuchi called me," Li Ka said, lighting a cigarette calmly. I stared at him with disbelief. "Oh, and besides that," he blew a slow breath, a haze of smoke between us as he looked at me. I caught on in time. Last time, Leng Chuchi had said he'd arrange a game for everyone to get acquainted. Perhaps that was this. But the real question was whether I should go or not. "Going gives you more chances to spend time together," Li Ka said, seeming to read my mind. "So you're going?" I already knew he always did things his way. How could he possibly join a trip organized by the top student? But his next words made my eyes go wide. "Going?" He threw the cigarette away barely halfway through. "Going, to give up on your sister." One after another, I can't keep breaking my own rules. He had been so persistent about Jingjing. But I couldn't bring myself to tell him. Zheng Zheng was not fond of him. I tried to gently hint at the truth without giving it away. My sister doesn't like guys who fight. Li Ka's expression didn't change. He just made a sound and let it go. Fair enough, a troublemaker like him surely had no shortage of tactics for pursuing girls. Someone as straightforward as me probably shouldn't be the one coaching him. On the day we set out for Xiamen, I discovered it wasn't just the four of us. Zheng Zheng's dormitory friends and Lang Chuchi's close friends were also coming, 8 people total, 3 girls and 5 guys. Li Ka stood beside me with that carefree, unbothered manner of his. We were like 2 outsiders in the group. Zheng Jiu, you're here. Zheng Zheng pulled me over excitedly and introduced me to everyone. This is my sister, Zheng Jiu. The 2 of them look so much alike. Let's see if anyone can spot the difference. Someone in the crowd shouted, and a whole group began loudly analyzing us. I was surrounded, becoming the center of attention, a feeling I wasn't used to, and one that brought me no joy at all. All right everyone, stop teasing them, Lang Chuchi said, clapping his hands to draw everyone's attention just as I was getting flustered. We're about to board. Go double-check your bags. The group finally started checking their belongings and getting in line. I looked at Lang Chuchi with a grateful glance. He smiled cheerfully at me. Line up, line up. Li Ka stepped right in front of me with his suitcase, blocking my view entirely. I hit him in frustration. He pretended to be in pain. You're really strong. I glared at him. By the time I looked for Lang Chuchi again, he had already turned away to deal with something else. When we arrived in Xiamen, we headed to Galanjiu Island. At the guest house, because there were more guys than girls, 1 guy and 1 girl each got their own room. Naturally, Zheng Zheng and her friends shared a room. On the guys' side, obviously, no one dared room with the school troublemaker. Li Ka was alone. After everyone settled in, I was in my room, bored and restless. I decided to go out for a walk and see what Galanjiu looked like at night. In front of the guest house, I ran into Li Ka. Who knows who he had been waiting for? Going for a walk? He asked, and when he turned and saw me, a look of genuine delight crossed his face. I nodded. The small alleys of Galanjiu branched out in all 4 directions, and the architecture along the roads had its own distinct character. Li Ka and I walked into the lanes just as dusk fell, and the scenery was breathtaking. If you follow this alley straight ahead, it leads to the beach. Li Ka raised his hand to point, and we went on ahead. He would occasionally stop to wait for me as I took photos, a stray cat on the roadside, a reflection in a window. Then I spotted 2 figures in the distance who looked very much like Zheng Zheng and Lang Chuchi. Just as I was about to look more closely, Li Ka suddenly turned around and stood right in front of me. My footsteps hadn't stopped in time, and I walked straight into his chest. I could clearly feel his body stiffen slightly, but very quickly he threw his arm around my shoulder and pulled me down a side alley. Not this way, over there. The group finally started checking their belongings and getting in line. I looked at Lang Chuchi with a grateful glance. He smiled cheerfully at me. Line up, line up. Li Ka stepped right in front of me with his suitcase, blocking my view entirely. I hit him in frustration. He pretended to be in pain. You're really strong. I glared at him. By the time I looked for Lang Chuchi again, he had already turned away to deal with something else. When we arrived in Xiamen, we headed to Galanjiu Island. At the guest house, because there were more guys than girls, one guy and one girl each got their own room. Naturally, Jing Zheng and her friends shared a room. On the guys' side, obviously, no one dared room with the school troublemaker. Li Ka was alone. After everyone settled in, I was in my room, bored and restless. I decided to go out for a walk and see what Galangyu looked like at night. In front of the guest house, I ran into Li Ka. Who knows who he had been waiting for? Going for a walk? He asked, and when he turned and saw me, a look of genuine delight crossed his face. I nodded. The small alleys of Galangyu branched out in all four directions, and the architecture along the roads had its own distinct character. Li Ka and I walked into the lanes just as dusk fell, and the scenery was breathtaking. If you follow this alley straight ahead, it leads to the beach. Li Ka raised his hand to point, and we went on ahead. He would occasionally stop to wait for me as I took photos. A stray cat on the roadside, a reflection in a window. Then I spotted two figures in the distance who looked very much like Jing Zheng and Leng Chuqi. Just as I was about to look more closely, Li Ka suddenly turned around and stood right in front of me. My footsteps hadn't stopped in time, and I walked straight into his chest. I could clearly feel his body stiffen slightly, but very quickly he threw his arm around my shoulder and pulled me down a side alley. Not this way, over there. I still wanted to look back at the pair I'd spotted, but Li Ka blocked my line of sight. Was that my sister? I couldn't help but ask. If it were your sister, I'd have rushed over already. Fair enough, his senses as someone in pursuit would be far sharper than mine. Li Ka led me through 7 or 8 more alleys before we finally reached the beach. Hearing the sound of the waves crashing against the scattered rocks, I suddenly felt that this trip wasn't a waste after all. What are you daydreaming about? Li Ka tossed a shell into the sea, then looked up. Nothing, just running, I said, turning to look at him. He laughed his silly laugh beneath the moonlight. His deep eyes focused on me for a long moment. Finally, he sat down next to me, and together we watched the clear waves rolling in from far offshore. Then I'll daydream with you, and run with you. The next day's itinerary was packed. Most people wanted to go to Sunlight Rock. I didn't really want to go. There was a piano museum on Galangyu that I wanted to visit. What's there to see at a museum? Someone said. Majority rules. We go to Sunlight Rock. I'm afraid of heights, not going to Sunlight Rock, Li Ka said from the corner, completely out of nowhere. Everyone turned to stare at him, astonished. He calmly crossed his legs and looked like nothing had happened. The atmosphere grew slightly awkward, then Leng Chuqi stood up. I heard there's a gold-plated piano inside the museum, a very rare piece, supposedly the first four-cornered piano in the world. I'd like to see it too. Why don't we split into 2 groups? He turned to Jing Zheng. You and Jing Jiu both play. The museum is well worth the visit. Sure, let's go together. The girl behind him smiled brightly and answered without hesitation. So the group split in 2. The 4 of us headed to the piano museum, while the others went to Sunlight Rock. The museum was small but filled with ancient pianos, all of them rare and treasured. As someone who played, I cherished every moment of the visit. Leng Chuqi was meticulous. Before every piano he stopped to introduce its history and share its background stories with Jing Zheng and me. Senior, you know so much. Jing Zheng said admiringly. I looked up a few related articles beforehand, Leng Chuqi said, smiling at Jing Zheng. The 2 of them chatted happily. and not a single sentence could I get in. Jingjiu, you're really hopeless, I thought silently, unable to say even one word to the person I liked. I made myself stop watching them and went outside to look around. Through the window, I could see Li Ka standing in a corner outside, smoking. Even though he'd come to the museum, there was no way he'd actually go in for a tour. After a little while I stopped following Ling Chuqi and Jingjing around and went outside to find Li Ka. Done already? He raised an eyebrow at me. You're not being proactive enough. How are you ever going to win someone over like that? You're the same way, I shot back. At least you had the opportunity, and didn't know how to use it. When did I miss my opportunity? Li Ka said casually. Who said I definitely have no chance? I had nothing to say to that. After the museum visit, along the road through a neighborhood where the Hui people lived, we happened to pass a woman selling flowers. Handsome guy, beautiful girl. Buy a bunch of flowers to take along, not many left. Buy one, get one free. Sell out early and I can catch the ferry home in time. Ling Chuqi stopped. Only 2 left, a red rose and a white rose. I'll take both. He scanned the QR code to pay, then handed the red rose to Jingjing. Then he hesitated for a moment and quickly held out the white rose to me. I was a little flustered. A handsome senior suddenly giving me flowers. How could anyone not be overwhelmed? But Jingjing got one, and I got one. Buy one, get one free. I don't know why, but the feeling of loneliness was stronger than the feeling of joy. It turned out that ever since the wheel of life had started turning, I had always only been the free gift, the add-on, the second thought. My pride wanted to refuse the flower, but I didn't know how to say it. He'd at least had some kind of intention, however small. Just then, someone jumped in front of me and snatched the flower. Buy one, get one free? Quick, give it to me. Li Ka looked at Ling Chuqi with an easy grin. In the face of our astonished stares, he continued, Ma'am, I'll take all the rest, too. The woman laughed happily and bundled the remaining flowers into a bouquet for him. He took the flowers and in an instant they were resting in my arms. I stared down at the sparse little bundle of roses, momentarily lost in thought. Was he trying to outdo Ling Chuqi? But these flowers should probably go to Jingjing. What was the point of giving them to me? On our last night in Xiamen, the whole group went to the beach together. Everyone drank beer and enjoyed the sea breeze, and in the midst of the high spirits someone suggested a game. Guess which one is Jingjing? I knew, just from hearing the name, that this game would be incredibly dull and very childish. Can I not play? I said directly. You came all this way, don't let the mood die, someone said. Not knowing what they were in for. Jingjing hooked her arm through mine and turned to look at Ling Chuqi. Senior, come guess, see if you can tell which one is me or not. Sure, no problem. Ling Chuqi stood up confidently. With a lot of fumbling and fuss, the group dressed Jingjing and me in matching outfits, tied our hair the same way, and put on our hats. Even as we were confused by the whole process, once the disguise was complete I looked closely at Jingjing beside me. I felt that she was pretending to be me, and from her eyes I could tell she felt the same, that I was pretending to be her. Li Ka's face showed nothing but utter indifference. All right. Ling Chuqi turned and walked a slow circle around Jingjing and me. Everyone held their breath waiting for his answer. Then, all at once, he grabbed my hand and raised it high. Even though the person holding my hand was someone I'd been fond of, I didn't feel the slightest bit happier. His confidence, and then the slap in the face, all in the space of one breath. I felt hopelessly flustered. "This is Zheng Zheng," he announced. Everyone went quiet. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, Zheng Zheng, who was standing to one side, suddenly pushed him. "Senior, you're really something. I'm Zheng Zheng." Leng Chuqi went silent. Then let go of my hand. The smile on his face went a little stiff. "Well, with the makeup, they really do look identical." "Senior, seems like you still don't know me that well," Zheng Zheng said, fake pouting but clearly already stepping in to save him from the embarrassment. "I told you," I had said from the start. The crowd went back and forth, one remark after another, eventually bringing up the fact that being twins means they're from different placenta, so even twins have differences. I said nothing. Something about it stung. As if Zheng Zheng and I could really be compared. When I got back to the room, Zheng Zheng came to find me. After that not quite pleasant game had wrapped up. We hadn't had much time to talk lately, so her showing up didn't surprise me. "Don't take what happened just now to heart. They were just playing around, no bad intentions," she said. "I'm not. I just don't want to play games like that," I replied. "I wanted to use this trip to get closer to you." In front of me, she looked different than she did in front of other people. I actually didn't want to come at all, and it was only because Leng Chuqi found Li Ka that he was able to invite you. So that's how it was. She had wanted to use this trip to smooth things over between us. In order to give you and me more time together, this time the senior helped out a lot. Wait, why did every sentence have to include Leng Chuqi? And then I suddenly understood something. "You like Leng Chuqi, don't you, Zheng Zheng?" She averted her eyes, and at last, reluctantly, nodded. At that moment it was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over the top of my head, cold all the way through, cold to the very heart. Sisters who both liked the same person. How absurd. And besides, from the very beginning, I had always been the one who had nothing. This time around should be no different. "About what you said last time regarding Dad," Zheng Zheng said after a long silence. Changing the subject. "Forget it," I said out loud. What I told myself inside, though, was, "I haven't forgotten." And as for Li Ka, Zheng Zheng bit her lip and hesitated before speaking. "Being friends is one thing, but don't get too close to him." "I don't understand," I said. It seemed she had a very bad impression of him. She furrowed her brow and said with a heaviness in her voice, "He can't give you stable happiness. Don't fall into the same trap." So she was worried I'd fall for Li Ka. Was she looking out for me? I didn't want to explain myself to her, so I went along with it. "I know my limits," I said, before returning from Xiamen. After the Xiamen trip, we were tormented by end-of-semester exams. Now that I knew Zheng Zheng liked Leng Chuqi, I felt that our alliance was essentially meaningless, so we gradually stopped being in contact as much. Whenever he came to look for me, I'd use studying as an excuse to avoid seeing him. After the last exam, I didn't say goodbye to anyone and went straight back to my hometown. On New Year's Eve, relatives on my father's side invited me for the reunion dinner. The remaining days of the holiday I spent alone at home. The third day of the Lunar New Year was my birthday. I woke up early in the morning to snow already falling outside. I opened my phone, 2 WeChat messages, one from my mother, one from Zheng Zheng. "Happy birthday, Jojo." Happy birthday, Jingjiu. Same time stamps, probably sent together. After my mother remarried, they moved to a different province. Every year, she'd send a birthday message, but there was no way for us to celebrate together. I had gotten used to it. I didn't need anything dramatic, surprise or joy. That evening, I boiled a packet of instant noodles and called it my birthday noodles. Happy birthday to me, may every day be a happy one, I said to myself, then picked up a chopstick full of noodles and put them in my mouth, along with the sound of chewing noodles. The doorbell rang. Who would possibly come to the door at a time like this? I frowned and went to answer it. Happy birthday, Jingjiu. Li Ka descended from the sky, carrying a bag of pastries. He was wearing a hat. Snow had settled on top of it and was slowly melting. His face was flushed red from the cold, his breath coming out in white puffs. Quick, quick, it's freezing out here. He was so animated he didn't wait for my permission before pushing past me and running inside. How did you know today is my birthday? I asked suspiciously. Li Ka froze for a second, then immediately put on the face of someone who knows everything. Like I'd not know. The whole world knows today is your sister's birthday. Can't you guess? It wasn't exactly the whole world, but at school, everyone who knew Jing knew today was her birthday. Still, only he had remembered that it was also mine. I rode the high-speed train for an hour to get here, Li Ka said, taking off his coat and planting himself on the sofa. And you, finishing your exams and not even telling me. How did you even find my home address? I pressed on. He didn't dare meet my eyes and pretended to glance around the room. I'm resourceful. I know everything. He squirmed, then awkwardly changed the subject. Where's your family? My dad isn't here. I didn't want to get into it. After a moment of silence, Li Ka noticed the instant noodles on the table. He frowned deeply. Instant noodles for dinner? You could also call them birthday noodles, I said with a small smile, trying to ease the awkward atmosphere. Li Ka didn't respond. He started opening the pastry box, took out the cake, stuck in the candles, and lit them. Then he turned off the lights. He stood before me holding the cake, the candlelight reflected in his eyes, flickering brilliantly. All right, I'll sing, you make a wish. It seemed I had nothing particularly worth wishing for. I simply closed my eyes gently and blew out the candles. Happy birthday. Little Joe, he said in the pitch-dark room, his voice softer and gentler than I had ever heard it, so rare. Something strange rose in my chest, but I didn't let it distract me from the moment. When the lights came back on, I shivered dramatically and made a face like I was disgusted. Li Ka, you're making me sick. Stop that nickname. He hadn't expected me to react this way. After a moment's thought, he tried, how about Little Sweet Joe? I took one look at his shameless, asking for it expression and truly wanted to hit him. Jingjiu is just fine. You could plainly see he was unhappy about it, but in the end, he agreed. Why aren't you celebrating your birthday with your sister? Li Ka, always the busybody. We're not that close, I covered up, not wanting him to see through me. Then why aren't you at her place? I knew Jing wouldn't invite him, but I hadn't expected to accidentally poke at his dignity as a pursuer. Your sister didn't invite me. I can't exactly show up uninvited to eat birthday cake, he said helplessly, throwing up his hands. She didn't invite me either. Why are you here, then? You want to kick me out? He pretended to get up to leave. I quickly blocked his way. It was already late, and there were no more high-speed trains. Stay here. You can use my dad's room, he's not using it anyway. His expression shifted in an instant and brightened immediately. He bounced up from the sofa. See, you do have a conscience. That night I lay in bed scrolling through my phone when I accidentally came across birthday photos for Xingzheng in a WeChat group. In the pictures, Xingzheng, her close friends, my mother, her current husband, and Ling Chuqi. I sat bolt upright in bed, zooming in and out compulsively. In one photo, Xingzheng had her arm hooked through Ling Chuqi's, the two of them smiling happily in front of a birthday cake, a picture that radiated joy. The caption read, "Celebrating my birthday with the most important person." Not an official announcement, but more than one. In the end, Xingzheng was with the person I had been secretly fond of. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. To call it heartbreak would be wrong. After all, nothing had ever begun. To call it misery would also be off. Honestly, I didn't mind all that much. More accurately, it was the feeling of loss that comes from a quiet love finally being extinguished. I opened my phone and scrolled through a few videos, and just then a message from Li Ka popped up. Still awake? I thought for a moment, then replied, not yet. Feel like sitting up for a bit. Come out. I couldn't stay in bed, so I got up, and there was Li Ka, sitting alone on the sofa. I thought of someone else. It suddenly hit me that I wasn't the only one who'd had their heart broken tonight. Did you see it too? I asked tentatively. See what? His expression didn't look like someone who already knew. I almost said it but caught myself, afraid to wound him, yet also afraid that not saying it would hurt him later. So I chose to ease him in gently. If, just hypothetically, my sister were with someone else, please, don't let it hurt you. Li Ka stared at me and immediately asked, you know your sister is in a relationship? So, judging by his tone, he already knew. You saw her post? Don't need to guess anymore, I said, suddenly relieved. But the Li Ka in front of me was staring blankly, showing no sign of recognition. Wait, so how did you know? After thinking for a moment, I finally figured it out. That day in Galangyu, Li Ka had claimed he'd taken a wrong turn. It turned out he had genuinely seen Xingzheng and Ling Chuqi. Piecing together the timeline of their time in Xiamen, it seemed they had already been together around then. The two of us, going around in circles, in an alliance, it turned out to have been completely useless. Come on then, Li Ka said, looking at me without a word. I tried carefully to comfort him. Ling Chuqi has no taste, he's not worthy of you. It was never mine to begin with. You can't force these things, I said with a laugh. From childhood, I had gotten so used to the feeling of not having things. No matter how hard you fought for them, it was always a waste. Li Ka watched me intently, his face unreadable. Don't be sad either, I said sincerely. I'm not sad, I'm actually pretty happy, he suddenly said, in a raised voice. I had been afraid he was going to hurt himself so badly over this that he'd break down. I remembered what Xingzheng had said about him, and tried my best to comfort him. The two of you were never meant to travel the same road. Going your separate ways is best for both of you. At these words, the expression on Li Ka's face shifted through several colors in rapid succession. Finally, he blurted out loudly, Xingzhou, I never liked your sister in the first place. Li Ka told me the truth. He had been pursuing Zheng Zheng as part of a bet. My expression darkened. How could you chase a girl for the sake of a bet, with no regard for her feelings? He went quiet for a moment, then swore solemnly, "From now on, I will only pursue the person I actually like." Before heading to bed, I asked Li Ka, "Our alliance, it's over now, isn't it?" The hand pushing open his door stopped mid-air. He thought for a long time, let out a quiet then went into the room. I thought Li Ka would leave the next morning. But when he learned I was heading back on the 7th day of the new year, he insisted on going with me. "You're going back to work so early," he said, wandering around the living room in my father's pajamas. "I'm interning at a newspaper office. I want to make a good impression on them. It's a real opportunity and I can't waste it." He looked thoughtful. "Aren't you going home? Don't your parents worry?" "There's nobody to worry about me," he said, slightly bitter. So, whether at school or at home, he was equally a law unto himself. "And your dad's not here, your mom and sister are somewhere else. How about the two of us?" He looked at me with an odd expression. "Two hedgehogs," I said without hesitating. Obviously trying to be kind, but always ending up poking each other with the wrong words. My parents divorced. My mother remarried. She could only bring one of us. So, a bonus gift. The kind that's there or not there, either way. Someone like me, there'd be no need to bring along. I didn't say the second half of the sentence, just let it sit quietly in my heart, for only me to hear. "It's okay. From now on, you've got me." When he said those words, everything felt vaguely off, as if something had shifted. The swaggering, arrogant troublemaker I had come to know seemed to have gone somewhere I couldn't quite find him. On the 7th day of the new year, Li Ka rode the high-speed train with me, transferred with me on the subway, and escorted me all the way to the foot of my dormitory building. Because it was still the holiday break, the campus was nearly empty. The whole dormitory building sat dark and still. Li Ka stood downstairs for a long while, even smoking a few cigarettes, but he still refused to let me go up. "Are you sure you want to stay in the dorms?" he asked, staring up at the dark building. "If not the dorms, where else would I stay?" I didn't want to make him worry. Compared to the messy rentals outside, the dorms were still safer. He didn't say anything. His gaze dropped to the ground, unfocused. "Go home already," I said. "I want to go upstairs and rest. I have to be up early tomorrow." He seemed slightly displeased, stood there a while longer, and finally turned to leave. I started my internship on the 8th day. Because the distance between the school and the newspaper office wasn't short, by subway. The daily round trip was nearly 3 hours. One winter morning, with the skies still not fully light and the streets not yet fully awake, I pulled on my coat and wound my scarf around my neck. I was just about to step through the school gate when a car blocked my way. "Get in, I'll drive you." The window rolled down. It was Li Ka. "Is this your car?" "Obviously mine," he said. Then, sensing that his words hadn't quite landed right, he cleared his throat and explained, "Not a thief, not a robber, license 4 years clean, get in without worry." And so, in a daze, I got into his car. Just like that, Li Ka showed up every morning on the dot at the school gate, and every evening he was there waiting at the newspaper office. Riding with him became a habit, one that started to make me feel a little guilty. On the 15th day of the first month, I planned to talk to Li Ka when I got back, Tell him he didn't need to come pick me up from now on. But I waited in front of the newspaper office for a very long time, and there was no sign of him. I called his phone. The one who answered was a stranger. Are you his friend? He got into a fight. He's at the police station now. Can you come? It was a cold winter day, but it felt like a bolt of lightning shot through my mind when I arrived at the police station and saw Lee Ka's battered face, and across from him a middle-aged man whose injuries looked even worse, one side shouting and cursing at Lee Ka, the other side complaining to the police. Lee Ka sat alone in a corner, head down, not saying a word. I watched him from a distance, and something inside me ached. I thought of that night 3 years ago at this very police station, and the dejected look on my father's face that I could never forget. You're Lee Ka's friend, aren't you? The police officer noticed me standing by the door and called me in. Lee Ka heard the sound, looked up, and his eyes were filled with unmistakable anxiety, like a frightened bird fearing a broken branch. The middle-aged man saw me walk in and stood up wanting to argue with me. Lee Ka suddenly leapt up from his chair, his gaze fixed warily on the man. What are you doing? Sit down, the police officer said, looking between the two of them, then explained to me, here's what happened. These two got into a fight, and we happened to be on patrol when we found them, so we brought them in. Young lady, why are you crying? I had meant to hold it together, but the scene hit me too hard, and the tears just fell. No way to stop them, no matter how I tried. The officer noticed immediately, only making me announce it louder, and I felt deeply embarrassed. But the more they pointed it out, the harder I cried, completely out of control. All 3 people in the room were thrown into a panic. Jingjiu, don't cry, I'm fine, Lee Ka pleaded. He had never seen me like this, wanted to comfort me but was afraid the officer would say something, so he could only sit there in a worried tangle. The middle-aged man, who had been ready to argue, didn't dare say a single word. The officer fumbled awkwardly, handed me a tissue, and hurried to reassure me. The situation isn't as serious as you might think. It can be resolved through mediation. He doesn't have to go to jail. I managed through my hiccups, because I was terrified that what had happened 3 years ago might happen again. We still need to wait for his father to come. As long as both families can reach an agreement, it'll be fine, the officer said, consoling me with one hand and lecturing Lee Ka with the other. Look at how worried your friend is about you. Don't go doing things against the law again. Lee Ka stared at me, truly stared, until he seemed to go blank. Then a low laugh crept onto his face. I had thought my eyes were blurred by tears, but after I wiped them away I realized Lee Ka was laughing. Still laughing, in fact, quite happily. When Lee Ka's father arrived, the 2 of them didn't exchange a single word. I thought it was strange but didn't dare pry. After everything was resolved, his father looked at me once, then at Lee Ka, and said, "Going home yourself, or coming with me?" "Going myself," Lee Ka answered without a change in expression. His father drove away. The 2 of us stood in front of the police station. He lit a cigarette and took 2 drags, then turned his head to look at me and only then noticed that it was the dead of a freezing winter night. And the dorms would be locked by now. "Come to my place," he said, stubbing out the barely smoked cigarette, taking off his fur coat and draping it over my shoulders. "I'm not cold," I said, reaching to give it back. "Put it on," he ordered. I obediently put on his coat. It really was very cold. I only put up a fight for about 2 seconds. When we arrived at his place, I was stunned. Where Li Ka lived turned out to be right in the middle of a large open floor in the center of the city. I hadn't known his family was this wealthy. His father wasn't there. He told the housekeeper to prepare the guest room. Jingjiu, help me put on my medicine. He picked up his phone to take a photo. Can't let my face get ruined. I followed him into the room. The room was immaculately clean, but the overall tones were dark and cold, with no warmth to speak of. On the bedside table, next to a small lamp, there was a photograph. In it, a beautiful woman in a white dress with sash buttons, standing beside a young boy. The boy's face was a dead match for Li Ka's. Wait, a white dress with sash buttons. I stared at the photo more carefully and realized that the dress was very similar to the one Li Ka had given me, yet not quite the same style. If the boy in the photo really was Li Ka, the woman in the dress must have worn it at least a decade ago, but the dress he'd given me looked, in general, quite new. That's my mother, Li Ka's voice cut through my train of thought. In front of me, he had only mentioned his mother twice. Once just now, and once before, at the hospital, when in his days he had called me Mom. I looked carefully at the woman in the white dress. Her silhouette was very similar to mine on the night of the performance. No wonder it had looked so beautiful. I didn't know what to say, but the compliment came completely from the heart. She's gone, he said. I looked at him, not even knowing how to offer comfort. It's okay. It's all in the past. He looked at me with a small, dismissive smile, but the grief behind it was plainly there. That idiot today, he said something about my mother. So if I were you, I'd have hit him too. I thought that saying it like that might make it easier for him. He looked at me, his gaze unmoving, going still and far away. I applied the medicine for him. Li Ka sat on the edge of the bed. I bent slightly and stood in front of him, concentrating as I applied it, from his forehead down to both sides of his face. Li Ka was truly stubborn. He didn't close his eyes, just kept staring at me intently. When I finished and looked more carefully at his face to check if there were any spots I'd missed, in an instant, he kissed me. Lips to lips, I was so flustered I didn't know what to do with my hands. The cotton swabs and the bottle of antiseptic both clattered to the floor. I used every bit of strength I had to push him away. What are you doing? I said, both angry and shaken. Wanted to kiss you, Li Ka said, his voice lowered, something burning in his eyes that made my face go red and my ears flush hot. The medicine is there, put it on yourself. I ran out of the room. I couldn't keep my composure anymore. Li Ka had lost his mind. And I thought I might have too. Li Ka continued driving me to and from work as usual. Anyone paying attention could see how his attitude toward me had shifted, and someone as involved in it as I was, how could I not know? Lately, the words Zheng Zheng had said kept surfacing in my mind. Don't get too close to him. Being targeted by someone like that makes life very difficult. I kept dreaming that I was at the police station crying loudly, or that I was going to a detention center to visit Li Ka. Every time I woke from these dreams, the pillow beside me would be soaked in a large wet patch. I looked around the empty dorm room, gripped by a sadness I had no one to tell. As the end of the semester approached, I made a decision. I would take Li Ka to visit my father. The visiting room was very small. My father was on the other side of the glass partition. Li Ka and I stood facing him. 3 years, I hadn't visited once. He had grown much thinner. When he saw me, he smiled for a long, long time. Is this your boyfriend? His gaze fixed on Li Ka behind me, and then he asked. Just a friend, I kept my voice calm. Having a friend is good enough. The eyes that had been resting on Li Ka moved to me. Our Jingjiu, you never used to like making friends. Hearing that, my heart couldn't help but ache. When visiting time was up, Li Ka and I squatted by the roadside in front of the detention center. Across the road, a vast and boundless paddy field stretched out before us. Li Ka pulled a cigarette from his pocket. Have one, I suddenly said. Li Ka looked confused, then, reluctantly, gave me one. I had barely taken one puff when I started coughing so hard that tears streamed from my eyes. Stop, don't smoke. Li Ka snatched the cigarette out of my hand in a hurry. I shouldn't have agreed. Then don't, I said, limp and weary. Either way, I wasn't forcing you. Who said I'm not? Li Ka suddenly stood up. I looked at him blankly. He pulled me to my feet, wrapped his arms around me, and said, from now on, whatever you want, just say it to me. I'll give you everything. He said he'd give me everything. My heart was moved, deeply moved, by those words. I told Li Ka about my father, how he used to get into fights all the time, how my mother couldn't take it anymore and divorced him, how after the divorce he only got worse. Sometimes enemies would even come to the house. 3 years ago, the school called me to the police station, and when I got there I found my father. He had beaten someone badly enough to be sentenced to 5 years. Li Ka hadn't expected me to tell him any of this. The depths of his eyes grew darker. Li Ka, please don't fight anymore, I said, hearing my own voice, soft, yet firm. He stared at the field in front of him, going still and blank. I followed his gaze. In winter, the earth was dry and bare, there was nothing. Only sparrows, chirping and flitting about, No more fighting. When the new semester began, Li Ka was like a completely different person. He went to class regularly and took part in school activities. He had dismissed all his underlings, and reminded them before doing so, you're all third years now, stop doing things you shouldn't be doing. Do you want to be eating the wind and dust on the streets? When there was no class in my major, I would sometimes go to class with Li Ka. At first, the teachers in his major always looked at me as if they were watching a performance. But the more I came, the more it became habit. Every time I went to class with him, though, I would inevitably run into Leng Chu-chi. Every time we crossed paths, he still greeted me warmly with a smile. One time, while heading to the bathroom during a break, I was nearly at the classroom door when Leng Chu-chi unexpectedly called out to me. Jingjiu, are you dating Li Ka? I didn't get the impression he was the gossiping type, so I kept listening. Your sister is very worried about you. It really was connected to Zhengzheng. We hadn't been in touch much since the start of the semester. As for my situation with Li Ka, I didn't think there was any need to tell her about it. Senior, I paused. Or should I say, brother-in-law? Leng Chu-chi gave an embarrassed laugh and scratched his head. Either works. Zhengzheng is worried that his fighting and injuring people might get you caught up in it. She doesn't want you getting close to someone like that. She doesn't want you to suffer again. Suddenly I felt a wave of sadness. For Li Ka, who was being judged based on nothing but prejudice, and for myself, always seen as a lonely stray bird. But none of them could understand what lay beneath the surface. They only saw the outside and said, you shouldn't, and you can't. But what counts as should, and what counts as can? Thanks for the reminder. Li Ka is good. We're both doing well, I said. Then I turned to leave, but he blocked my way. Li Ka stepped out from the classroom. He looked at Leng Chuchi with suspicion, then quietly walked over and stood in front of me. This is Jingjiu, not your Jingzheng. Don't go mistaking them again. I sensed the faint scent of vinegar in the air. You've misunderstood, I quickly said, pulling Li Ka aside to smooth things over. He came here to tell me something about my sister. Leng Chuchi gave a helpless smile. That's right, Jingzheng said you weren't answering her calls or replying to her WeChat, so she asked me to come tell you. She's inviting you to the cafe in front of school this afternoon. Don't forget. Once Leng Chuchi was gone, Li Ka tilted his head and stared at me. Going to see your sister, can I come along? I stayed quiet and said nothing. But when we reached the entrance of the cafe, Li Ka reconsidered. It's probably better I don't go in. Didn't you say that you and my sister are on different paths? Going separate ways is best, right? He said with a warm smile, rubbing the top of my head. I'll wait for you outside. I didn't push it and went to the meeting spot alone. Over here. Zheng was sitting by the window, waving at me. Since returning from Xiamen, we hadn't really seen each other. He didn't come in. She looked toward the door and clicked her tongue. When she saw that Li Ka had walked me here, it was clear from her expression. I sat across from her and nodded in silence. The two of you are dating, she ventured. Honestly, even I wasn't sure if what we had counted as dating. I heard he's changed lately. The school troublemaker seems to have become a completely different person, Jing said with a teasing smile. Actually, she's not against you two dating. She just worries that one day he'll be like, Dad is Dad, and Li Ka is Li Ka. I cut her off. The hand around her cup paused for a moment, then she slowly brought it to her lips. From the time you were little, you've never been someone who fights for things. Even when Mom took me and left, you only thought, well, if someone has to stay behind, let it be me. When they took away the piano, you only thought, Zheng was always the one who should be learning it. I was just trying it out for fun. Her eyes glistened slightly. So you've always told yourself, the things I want, the people I like, those aren't things I'm allowed to ask for. She paused. Being alone, you feel lonely too. It's not that you didn't want to make friends. It's just that even when you opened up, it was hard for anyone to come in. She stopped again. But you know what? Li Ka got in. He taught me that I can make requests. That I can actually go after what I want. Before, you said I was free, but I was never free. I never even thought about freedom. But now things have changed. His being here gave me the courage to say goodbye to the past. A long breath. So why would I let go of him? I said a lot. At last I could say all of this to her. Zheng's eyes turned slightly red around the rims. She listened calmly, afraid of losing her composure. I don't want to be alone anymore, I said. That was the last thing I said, and at last I felt my heart unclench. Zheng looked at me for a long time, her eyes holding both self-reproach and grief. As long as you're happy, as long as you're happy. And I hoped so too. When saying goodbye to Zheng, I told her that we should still keep things the way they were, not reach out too often at school. I still wasn't used to having people play Guess Who's Zheng in front of me. Some things I had worked through, but that didn't mean I had to fully reconcile everything either. When I walked out of the cafe, Li Ka was still there, waiting by the side of the road. I walked up behind him and clapped him hard on the back. He didn't even flinch. "This person really cannot be scared," he said. "How did it go?" I didn't answer. We just walked side by side, all the way back to school. "Li Ka, be my boyfriend." The words finally came. But the moment they were out of my mouth, the person beside me was nowhere to be seen. I turned around. He was standing completely still, rooted to the spot. "You don't want to?" I frowned. After all, he was the one who had confessed to me, even if it had been the wrong person, at the very beginning. How could I not want to? He sprinted back to me. How could I possibly not want to? He pulled me into a tight hug. "In this lifetime, the only fruit I eat is pomelo. All other citrus, tangerines, mandarins, whatever, stay far away from me. What I mean is, in this lifetime, I only like you, my little Gio." And, Li Ka's perspective, those guys from the foreign languages department actually had the nerve to bet me to pursue their own department's beauty queen. Like that was some big challenge. I staked out for a few days and finally caught her alone. I confessed, but she told me I'd confessed to the wrong person. What? Turns out they're twins. There were people watching. Li Ka couldn't afford to lose face. First, bluff her a little. Then, negotiate. Protect my dignity, and still get a chance to pursue the beauty queen. Two birds, one stone. She then said she wanted to make a deal with me. Either way, I had nothing to lose. Fine, let's do it. She asked me to help her pursue my own classmate, Ling Chu-chi. These girls really do all go for the same type these days. I'm practically losing my appetite. Doubting life itself, she asked me to come to the anniversary gala. I didn't want to go. Was I that obvious? She looked a little uncomfortable, but how could I say anything? I kept quiet and went along with what she said. She wants to perform a piano solo. I know someone in the music department. I can figure something out. There's a dress at home. I just bought it not long ago. I bought it because I missed my mother. She really loved that style. Honestly, I didn't want to give it away. But nobody else was wearing it, so I gave it to her. She plays beautifully. A true hidden gem. She finally introduced me to her sister. The beauty queen of the department. Don't they look exactly the same? And somehow, she's still less interesting than this girl, so she hadn't played piano in 5 years. What happened? I think I understand that feeling. It hurts. Those guys from Thai University actually dared to surround me. A pity they outnumbered me. I took one for the team and was honorably brought to the hospital. I said I'd come watch her perform. Broke my promise. Wait, who's at the door? Mom? No, that's her, isn't it? Was I hallucinating? It's embarrassing, but when she wears that dress, there really is something of my mother about her. They're both like celestial beings. Beautiful, So the bookworm Ling Chu-chi actually came to find me and talked. Going to shaman to play, what was that situation? The two of them got to that stage behind my back already? I said I wanted to go too. Ling Chu-chi hesitated. I'm not spending his money either. And I still had to stand in line at the airport for security check, and those two were still flirting with each other. Couldn't watch it. I figured out a way to keep them from sneaking glances at each other. Finally caught her at the guest house door. Since there was nothing else going on, let's take her to see the sea at night. What was that thing she grabbed from her bag? It caught my eye. Is the beauty queen really walking around hand in hand with the bookworm? Can't let her see that. If she did, she'd be in a bad mood for the rest of the night and I wouldn't be able to comfort her. Didn't let her see. Scared her half to death in the process. Watching her walk dazed behind me, her eyes, somehow, a strange feeling crept up, sitting on the beach with her. Running with her. It really was comfortable. During the trip we had a disagreement. She said she wanted to go to the piano museum. Honestly, museums are really boring. But I didn't feel like watching this whole group of people go around with her. The bookworm and the beauty queen were unbearable enough. And buying flowers for two girls at the same time, sisters, no less? I truly didn't get what the beauty queen saw in him. Honestly, I wasn't comfortable with how this whole group was acting. That stupid guessing game. Who guesses wrong about a person they claim to like? Even I could get it right blindfolded. The look on Lang Chuchi's face after he guessed wrong. How was he supposed to explain that to the beauty queen? Since we got back, the two of us hadn't been in much contact. I was a little hurt. Xiao Long and Xiao Ma bought me pomelos to eat, said it helps cool the fire inside. Pomelo. I think I miss her, because I lost that bet with the guys from the foreign languages department. I had to treat them to a meal. During dinner, I found out, the third day of the new year is the beauty queen's birthday. Isn't that also little Joe's birthday? I asked them for the beauty queen's home address and realized that little Joe's parents had divorced. She was living with her father. I had someone find out the hometown address. I wasn't sure if she was really there, but worth a try. Bought a cake, pomelo flavor, naturally. The heavens must favor me, heavy snowfall. Some high-speed train routes had been cancelled. Thankfully my luck held. I bought a ticket. Made my way to her door, and straightened myself up for a couple of minutes, a little nervous. When little Gio appeared, I almost pulled her into a hug right there. But I held myself together. She's alone at home. Instant noodles as birthday noodles? I felt a little bad. I've never sung happy birthday to anyone. Tonight I'll sing it for her. She made a wish, and I accidentally called her by the nickname I'd been keeping quietly to myself. She seemed not to like it. Made me keep calling her Jingjiu instead. What a rigid name. Not happy about that. Little Jiu agreed to let me stay the night. But she was sleeping in the room right next to mine. How was I supposed to sleep? I sent her a WeChat. Turns out she was still up. She came out and started talking around the subject of those two. So she already knew. I didn't know how to comfort her. As it turns out, her sister was together with the person she liked. That must have been really hard, but she comforted me first. I just couldn't hold back. I had to tell her the truth. I don't like her sister. Little Gio got angry and scolded me for being too casual about pursuing girls. I made her a promise. From now on, I'll only go after the person I actually like. Little Gio is ready. Does she want me to pursue her? From the moment my mother died in a car accident, I've never liked this kind of toy car anymore. But because the place Little Gio interns is so far away, I could only drive her there and back every day. What rotten luck, I ran into that idiot. He dared to say something about my mother. Obviously, I wasn't going to let that slide. I went straight at him. And then I had to run right into the cops on patrol. Embarrassing. At the police station, they said to cooperate. No choice, I had to call my dad. The old man actually agreed to come. At least he showed me that much respect. What was this situation? Why was she here? Little Gio was crying. I was heartbroken. She asked the officer whether I'd have to go to jail, so she was worried about me. What now? I felt both sad and happy at the same time. Little Gio came to my place. I told her about my mother. Told her about today's fight too. Not only did she not blame me, she said if it were her, she'd have thrown a punch too. She's so adorable. Little Gio applied medicine to my face. But she didn't know that when she was focused, she'd purse her lips, so soft. I just wanted to kiss her. I couldn't help myself, so I kissed her. Sweet, soft. I loved it. But little Gio seemed very angry and left directly. Whatever. I'll apologize tomorrow. She brought me to visit her dad in prison. Suddenly I felt so much for her. How could she have been doing all of this alone? Her father asked if I was her boyfriend. Dad-in-law really has good eyes. If not for this glass partition, I'd absolutely be giving him a round of applause. But little Gio said we weren't. Sooner or later, little Gio wanted to smoke. I didn't want to give her the cigarette, but I couldn't bear to say no. She took one puff and coughed so hard she was in tears. My mind really wasn't working. I absolutely should not have given it to her. Little Gio said, "Don't force you if you won't give it to me." At that moment I wanted to give her everything. She told me about her father. It was because of all his fighting that things turned out this way. That was why she ended up alone. I regretted it terribly. Little Gio told me to stop fighting. Okay. I agree. I started studying hard. Little Gio would sometimes come to class with me. It turned out that college life could actually be this good. I was planning on confessing to her in a few days. This time for real, no more confusion like last time. Why did Ling Chuchi come to find little Gio? Thinking about the time he mistook someone for her in Xiamen, I was so furious my eyes nearly rolled back. He's the person little Gio liked. Can't let him get close to little Gio. Little Gio panicked for a moment. Turns out her sister was looking for her. I went with her to the cafe but thought better of it. The things between sisters, they should sort out themselves. But if anyone dares to hurt little Gio, I'll personally handle it. What? Little Gio just said. Does she want me to be her boyfriend? She actually confessed first before me. I agree, I agree, I agree. In this lifetime, I only like you, little Gio. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.